talking about malnutrition, and I guess malnutrition in children is, I mean, there's the undernourished and then there's the malnourished, and we'll see, they're both two sides of the same equation. But here's something I just pulled off from Wikipedia. Undernutrition in children, where an individual is not getting enough calories or proteins or micronutrients, is common globally and may result in both short and long-term irreversible negative health outcomes. Now, what Mary Robinson says, if that child is malnourished in the first few years or even in the womb, it's irreversible. There's no going back. It's not like we can fix it. Yeah. So basically, and obviously the other side of the equation is childhood obesity. But look at the estimates here. Malnutrition accounts for 54% of child mortality worldwide, about 1 million children. Another estimate by the WHO states that a child with underweight is the cause of about 35% of all deaths in children, under the age, I think, of 5.
Yeah.
So there's the problem. And here we have a pictorial representation of both extremes, of malnutrition. On the left, we're overfed and undernourished, and on the right, we're underfed and undernourished. And the question is, who is going to solve the problem on either side? And I would say it's like if it's a village that raises a child, then we in the global virtual village that we're in all sort of carry some responsibility for trying to address the problem, because really we all reap the damage from it. If a child is malnourished up to the age of 5, and that becomes a ward of the state. If it doesn't die, then we pay as a society for the outcome. We're certainly paying for the outcomes of this. I mean, I think the statistic says that the highest rate of infant diabetes or childhood obesity is in National City, which is just down the road from me in San Diego. So who really, as we all focus on the whole world on the pandemic, who is out there working in the field to get the children nourished and not just overfed? And that obviously is not the children's fault, it's the parents' fault. Here, so linked to half of all child deaths, malnutrition, especially dangerous in women, and children. Malnourished women will usually have malnourished fetuses while they are pregnant, which can lead to physically and mentally stunted children, creating a cycle of malnutrition and underdevelopment. We do not want a world. I mean, I do not want a world where people can't think, where children have not been given the kickstart, or the mother has not been given the education or the help to create viable fetuses that generate wonderful children. Because look how many Einsteins could be lost in those child deaths. See, it's here. This effect on a child's intellectual quotient makes it impossible for them later in life to achieve their true potential. That's a fact. And then obviously on the other side here, 160 million children show symptoms such as stunting, which is an indicator of malnutrition. So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of reasons why we could do something. Now the question is, what can we do? And that's why I believe that that's why I believe and why I continue to promote this free enterprise approach to fighting malnutrition and starvation and death, in the world. And it's an award-winning. The American Business Award was given to New Skin, Nourish the Children initiative, for the most innovative philanthropic program in that particular year. And basically what it does is it uses a bag of fortified Vitameal, that people anywhere in the world, well, anywhere in the world where New Skin does business, can purchase and donate to the Nourish the Children initiative. And the Nourish the Children initiative takes that food, pays for its distribution costs, and the distribution is done by the World Feed the Children charity program. Yeah. And it gets to a child because the child needs to have a ticket to get that bag of food, which will nourish that child for 30 days. So if I have 5 bags in my rewards order every month, then I can have a warm, fuzzy feeling that somewhere in the world, I've adopted 5 children who are getting their nourishment. And actually interesting, I was just talking to Mark Bartlett, who was the VP of R&D at Pharmanex, who told us about the origin of this particular formulation, because it was done together with Pharmanex scientists and nutrition scientists at UC Davis under I guess the oversight of a special, I think it was Brown was his name, who was an expert in child nutrition. And he says if he goes to, and most of the meals go to Malawi, about 10 million meals a quarter. But if you go to the villages in Malawi where the children have gotten the Vitameal and compare them to the villages where the children have not gotten Vitameal, the children just are glowing. You know, their hair shines, their eyes shine, their skin is healthy. So you can just know from the outside that they really are getting what they need. Yeah. So I'll stop the share there and just open it up for questions that I might be able to answer. Does that make any sense, guys?
What type of nutrients is in there? Sorry, Jackie.
So it's both macro and micronutrients. It has fats, carbohydrates, and proteins, and then it is fortified with the micronutrients. As you saw on that slide, the most common deficiencies are iodine, vitamin A. Actually, there was a paper that a friend of mine about 20 years ago, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, asked me to comment on, which was trying to genetically engineer vitamin A into rice, because that's the leading cause of blindness in children. Because if they're not getting vitamin A, the macula, you know, in the back of the eye where all the light focuses on, gets basically battered to pieces from that radiation damage. And also, actually, if you see in prisoners, you know, in the gulags, they would develop night blindness because they wouldn't have enough vitamin A in their diet, and they wouldn't be able to see at night. Yeah. So anyway, that's why your grandmother probably says, here, eat your carrots so you can see like a rabbit.
Yeah.
So there are reasons. So basically, it is fortified with all the micronutrients as well, so that the systems can function. Yeah. Jackie, you had the question.
No, Hans, that's a powerful presentation. You just really, it's like the information you gave is so powerful. Those statistics on children's death and the death of under 5, and the fact, and the images are powerful as opposed to being overeating, as opposed to, and I think it would, I don't know, it's only a suggestion, if you put that in a video yourself and post that out every day for people to listen to you, because I think sometimes it's a lack of understanding or a lack of information and knowledge on others' behalfs, and that's they're powerful points you've just made. And I think if you did a short video and you posted that out every day, I'd share it for you. I think you might make more awareness or create more awareness, because I loved that. I didn't love that presentation, what I'm saying, the power of it and the information I've just got from that. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for that feedback. And I would say, Joanne, if you want to download that recording into your YouTube, please feel free to share it.
Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. And just to follow on what Jackie was saying, you know, it's lack of awareness. That's what, you know, most of these problems are going on, you know, or various problems in the world, and there's a lack of an awareness. Like homelessness, you know, is a big one, and you know, people are very ignorant to a lot of these problems going on in the world. And right now there's a massive focus on this virus, right? And everything else is won't say forgotten about, but it's not, just, no, the awareness isn't there as big. Do you know what I mean? And for children, and I'm really, really passionate about children, because they deserve to have a childhood. They deserve to have a healthy childhood and a happy childhood. And we know that if you're undernourished, your mood is greatly affected. Like, you don't want to have a child hungry, going around hungry, right? But it also affects their behavior. And children are growing and learning and developing. They're going through those teenage years, and there's all the hormones are all over the place, and then they're malnourished on top of that, So I really, really love what you're doing, Hans, because helping to support children, because they deserve a childhood, no matter where they live or, or who they are. All children deserve a happy and healthy childhood.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I go ahead, Seamus.
sorry, yeah, and just to reiterate, I guess that point, and what struck me, I suppose, fairly forcefully, was the irreversible nature of this. And I mean to say, the sooner you can intervene, the better. And it kind of really reinforced the importance of, again, what Jackie mentioned, of getting it and really emphasizing that you can't intervene quickly enough on malnourishment, and the work you're doing is absolutely fantastic. And the other thing I wanted to mention that I think is worth calling out as well is the Alzheimer's epidemic that we see is completely tied into more and more research is showing the obesity, diabetes, and it's commonly referred to now as diabetes type 3. So that's another good reason to get in front of people to say, Alzheimer's just isn't an old person's illness. It's something that begins, very, very years, if not decades ahead of the symptoms occurring. So I think that's a very powerful maybe motivator for people to be aware of as well, that, you have got the diabetes, you've got all the other lifestyle related illnesses, but diabetes seems to be on the up and up, and increasingly becoming a bigger problem for people. And again, a problem for people earlier in their lives. So I think that's certainly tied into, a lot of what you shared here today as well, I think,
Awesome feedback. I just put into the chat the one hypothesis that makes the absolute most scientific sense and compelling sense to ensure micronutrient completeness, or a solid micronutrient foundation, was put forward in PNAS in 2006 by a guy called Bruce Ames, who is famous because every molecule that heads into the food chain will go through an Ames test to see that it's not mutagenic or it doesn't mess with your DNA. And the triage theory says if there ain't enough to go around, if you're asking your body to rob Peter to pay Paul, so that all the vital biological processes that are responsible for your survival right now will be prioritized at the expense of long-term health. And as you point out, Alzheimer's and many of the age-related diseases under that hypothesis are posited as being a long-term consequence of that marginal micronutrient deficiency. Yeah. Now, I know how difficult it is for children, for parents to nourish children that are picky eaters. So the other question then becomes, what tools can parents use and need, to be able to encourage the child to do the right thing? Because I remember growing up, I did not like eggs. I did not like tomatoes. The palate, it just wasn't there.
Soups, stews, and smoothies. Throw it all in there.
Yeah, they're the secrets.
So yeah, I mean, I thank you so much for that kind feedback. But also the take-home message is, in Europe for 20, and Joanne very kindly did this. So for one bag is 21 euros, for 2 bags is 36 euros. You can just purchase and donate it to the Nourish the Children, and know that you now have sponsored a child somewhere that's getting the nourishment that they need. And in places like America, where you can also buy that food, because it's usually maize, rice, or lentil based, you can actually, I do another 5 bags to our local food bank. Yeah. And of course there it becomes a bit of a culture thing, because they love eating Twinkies. Children love eating Twinkies. Healthy food does not seem to be very high on their priority, but that's what they get. Yeah. So I can purchase it to then donate it to the local food bank, if that's available. In Europe, it's just purchased to donate to the Nourish the Children initiative.
Hans, you talked about, you mentioned aging and, you know, the longevity. And just something I just wanted to add in there, when it comes to anti-aging, and I've heard you talk, I watched that video that you posted in the group during the week as well about the chronological age and the biological age, and this is all related to aging, obviously. And so the biological age is how your body is operating, like if it's operating like a 50-year-old or a 30-year-old or whatever, right, as opposed to your chronological age. But if our biological age is very young, right, so in other words, if we're getting the nutrition that we need, and this is obviously food, but it also could be our self-care as well, right, or, you know, our emotional health and all that as well, because that's part of our nourishment too. But when it comes, what's going on in the world at the moment with our immune system? So it's obviously if we're aging fairly quickly, it's going to have an impact on how well our whole body is functioning, including our immune system as well. So that's another factor as well. I just think it's just really when you bring the aging into it, and you know, the oxidative stress, you talk a lot about that, and the body not being able to detoxify efficiently and all of that. So it has all those effects when we're undernourished or malnourished as well. So just wants to show.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point, and this is something I try to, you know, I'm a scientist, and the deconstructionist approach to our health can be quite challenging. It's actually very good, because if you think of it, there's a lady who is a cell biologist who worked for the MRC who put this into my consciousness. Western medicine is based on cutting up dead people, yeah, putting the bits together and seeing how it works. Eastern medicine, on the other hand, looks at acupuncture points, the chakra points. It looks at the living human being to see what it needs to stay in balance. Now, if you marry East and West, you've got the absolute best solution. The problem with the Western deconstructionist approach is we always look for the one thing. And it's never just the one thing. The knee bone is connected to the thigh bone is connected. So, you know, we need to look at what is the balance? What is the homeostasis? What are the things that we need holistically? Mind, body, spirit. Because we know from the research of Patrick Porter that if you're not producing the right brain waves, you're compromising your nutrition by 30%. You're not making the endorphins in your gut. All of those things absolutely and totally focus into it. So I always tell people, how are you nourishing, how are you protecting, and how are you triggering the gene expression that turns your book of life into life? And those are the three things you need to balance. And it is the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual that all has to come in. That's why I love this holistic academy organization, to teach that and to bring that awareness out. Back to the awareness. Ignorance is a powerful tyranny. Hell is the truth learned too late. And really, if you think of it, if we take our biological responsibility to heart, if once we've seen the light, we cannot but share it. We might be told to shut up and get out of people's faces, but there's nothing that we can do except I found something that you might like. Here, take a look at it and see how it may or may not benefit you.
You mentioned about cell behavior and based on what we eat or how we nourish ourselves, eating or emotional health or whatever. And epigenetics, Bruce Lipton talks an awful lot about epigenetics, and it's the new science really. And there's lots of scientific studies to prove that it's real. And epigenetics is basically, you know, we have all our genes, and, you know, some people think that if their mother or father had cancer, they're going to be doomed to have cancer as well. But we do have control over the expression of our genes through the epigenetics. There's a bit of noise outside. But yeah, what you said about the cell expression is a really powerful one that we have power over, Hans, as well. Yeah. And
Joanne, just to point this out again, that's not a new. Epigenetics is not new.
It's I think
new. Let's go back. There was Darwin and Lamarck. Nature, nurture. Yes. Because at that time of Darwin, the sun never sat on the English Empire. Darwin was accepted and Lamarck was vilified. But there are contradictions in that Darwinian look at evolution, because there are somatic changes that cannot be explained by changes that cannot be explained. But Lamarck is now getting his rightful place through that expression of, or through the field of epigenetics. And in Time magazine 2010, it had the cover, "Why Your Genes Are Not Your Destiny." Researchers from the frontiers of epigenetics. We've always known it, nature, nurture. And I can tell you one thing, every mother and father knows what happens to the child if you give it too much sugar.
Yeah, I do. So, too many hot chocolates.
There's an immediate experiment that you can do.
No, you're grand.
It's interesting, Hans. You've mentioned a couple of things, but what I like about your presentation is that you talk about malnourishment in kids and mothers. But if you think about it, the diseases that we see today is the petri dish of the child, because how that child is fed, grown, and so on is how the petri dish in the cell will grow in the individual from childhood to adult, and whatever isn't foundationally built properly through genes, cells, etc. in that child in later life is going to have a major knock-on that we see right now.
Yeah, and that's scary, Aaron. I mean, everyone here is privileged because we had nourishment. We had parents that nourished us. By some luck or whatever, we got what we needed, and most of the people do. So it doesn't seem to be a problem, but it is a problem. I mean, the evolution of our Western diet has gotten to prepared food. I mean, if I would just suggest one thing to people is turn off your phones, get around the dinner table, and talk to your spouse and your children around food that you prepared. Make food sacred. Bring it back to where it is. I mean, and Patrick talks to this. I mean, in Ireland, you just and you're gone. When I eat with my French wife, it's a 2-hour exercise.
Wow.
Appetizer, main course, dessert, wine, and we talk about the things of the day. And that's what I get really, really angry when I see food fights on TV. What does that say? Food is secret. It's your connection to life. Let's not denigrate it by making it into a fun throwaway kind of thing. And actually, my grandmother was when she was in Ireland, she was shocked because you live in Berlin through the war when the Russians come in and you're eating dead horses that have just fallen. You appreciate the power of food. Yeah.
Yeah, and the rituals, I can hear the rituals, family time together, sitting down at the table, because that's what's expected. No mobile phones, and it's a ritual, and there's something very special about that, and it is really been lost.
Can I just
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, Hans, can I just say very quickly, you spent 2 hours at dinner and 4 hours in the golf course.
He has his priorities.
Joanne, you chose the right word, priority.
But Hans,
You have to have fun.
that was very powerful, Hans. Very, very powerful. We'd love you to come and do another presentation, of course, on your Holistic Academy, because this is fantastic and a very, very powerful presentation. So we'd love you to come and do another presentation for us on the Holistic Academy. Patrick will sort that out, Patrick. Yeah. And I'd love to do a Facebook Live with you as well, Hans, because and I mean, we, as part of your Holistic Academy, one of the things that we're looking to do is a pledge, if you like, to we're in collaboration with Ronan in CRED around United Nations goals for sustainable living, and so one of those, obviously multiple numbers of those goals would be around nourishment and health, and so we could maybe adopt this nourish the children as one of our pledges, as part of the project.
That would be awesome. I mean, I think last year or last November, they reached a milestone of 700 million meals. Each bag is 30 meals. So 700 million meals fed. They probably nourish about 120,000 children a month.
Mm.
Wouldn't it be great if it was 200,000?
Oh,
Or wouldn't it be great if it was 300,000? You know,
Yeah.
and I love it because you know that you're not giving money. The bag gets there or it doesn't. It's not, you know, 50% of the bag gets there. It's the bag that gets there.
Mm.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So.
anybody else have any feedback for Hans? Donal, I haven't heard from Donal.
Now, what have I got to say?
Loads. You always have something to say, Donal.
I do. I have, it's clearly a subject I'm very interested in. By the way, you mentioned Bruce Lipton. He's doing a webinar or a talk organized by two Irish people on the evening of the 24th of March.
Ah,
Paul Congdon of the Positive Life magazine and Jane Stevenson of seminars.ie are cooperating.
wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
I only found out today.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
8 o'clock on the 24th of March.
I have to put that in the calendar. That's a good one. Bruce Lipton is incredible. Oh my God. You've all heard of Bruce Lipton, haven't you? Have you? Yeah.
I don't know which one of them will be interviewing him. They may be interviewing him jointly. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh no, he's full of wisdom. He's just
So
amazing.
that's seminars.ie, and the other place is Positive Life magazine, Paul Congdon.
Mm.
Right.
Very good, brilliant. I'll put that in the post.
Paul,
That'll do.
Hans, in your after comments there, you mentioned nourish and protect. What do you mean by the word protect?
That's a good. What do you think protect means? I mean, protect against the outside aggressors of life. You know, so it's we as parents, we try to protect, don't we? We try to protect our children against the life slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. I think and also there's always a great sort of fight between enable and empower. You know, there's the tough love parent that empowers, and then there's the lovey parent that enables, and there's always the fight between how do we balance that.
Yeah, but I guess the most shocking graphic that you showed was the obesity and the very thin or malnourished or undernourished, and it's shocking in a world where we have both. We human beings can go to the moon and back, and if we were short of food, fair enough. I mean, if there wasn't enough food to go around, there clearly is. But what does it say about humanity and our priorities and how power operates in the world? Really operates?
Yeah.
So I think that's a fantastic observation, Donald. In my life, I have found that I can take it, leave it, or change it.
TLC, love it.
And I have decided to change it one child at a time, one message to a loving person at a time. And I refuse, still point blank, because our thoughts are free, to be directed like Peacebuilding would say, I don't eat junk food, I don't think junk thoughts. I do not want to go down a spiral of inaction by all the things that could be that are not being done by them, to abrogate the responsibility that I have to my family, to my friends, to my community, and the world. And and that's how the world survives. It's the small actions of all good people, small actions that raise humanity's problem. And it's unfortunate that we are getting hijacked. Our attention is getting hijacked by the fear and loathing of a media.
Yeah.
That is politically correct to the extent that it is actually killing free speech. Because if liberty means anything at all, it means the right for me to tell you what you do not want to hear. And I will defend everyone's right to do that.
Yeah, me too.
So there's a lot of work to be done, and we're sitting at a lovely tipping point, because it only gets better when things get really, 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 really bad. That's just the way we humans respond.
The question I have, Hans, is if you walk around the supermarket, because I sometimes walk around the supermarket to get assistance because it's quicker for me to get in and out. But I'm amazed at all the products that are on the shelves. I know a certain amount of percentage of that is consumed by consumers in the supermarket. But I'm amazed of all the products that are there that could be used to, maybe this is happening, but I'm just gobsmacked that you just mentioned there and your point, and I'm kind of elaborating in a different way, is that there's so much food out there, but yet are we utilizing a way where children can access it in a way that has never been done before,
I don't think we...
There's a wonder, and I would encourage everyone to look at this TED Talk by Ron Finley, Gorilla Gardener. Okay, it's a fantastic thing. It's Ron. I see if I can put it into the chat. He says if kids plant tomatoes, they eat tomatoes.
Yes,
it's very simple. And what he does is he takes the medians of South Central LA, which he says South Central LA is the home of the drive-by and the drive-through. And the funny thing is, more people die from the drive-through than the drive-by shooting. Okay, that's what we do. And then he says, you can all join me in this. You just plant the medians and people can go and they can find their food there. Now, if you plant food, you're planting money too. So there's a business component to it. But he says, you're all welcome, because remember, he says, free is not sustainable. Funny thing about sustainability, he says, you got to sustain it. So what are we doing that can sustain a particular thing? Or as, what is it? Recently, there was a wonderful quote I heard from George Bernard Shaw, a government that robs Peter to pay Paul can always count on the support of Paul. So anyway.
Brilliant.
Yeah, interesting in the light of recent American politics. And I'm going no further than that.
There's something else, what Aaron was saying about the supermarkets, and what I thought about, I read a statistic that 80% of the pre-packed food has added sugar into it, right? And what does sugar do to us? It makes us, we're addicted to sugar, but it also makes us crave more food, but more the wrong types of food.
Yeah, the food industry, it has an incentive to make us addicted.
Mm-hmm.
But it's business, isn't it?
In fact, every manufacturer of anything has a built-in incentive to make us addicted insofar as that's possible. And the food industry has it down pat. And if you have addicted people, you have them for life.
Yeah.
Well, unless a few individuals here and there change their ways. But on the broad sweep, get people addicted and you have them for life.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And I would say though, if you look at COVID, if COVID has taught us anything at all, it has taught us the power of our spending habits. And when I came to America for a vacation in 1997, there was a farm workers strike that called on a boycott of the grapes. You boycott. I mean, we are so powerful. If you don't like something, you don't like an industry, don't buy their stuff.
Mm.
And if enough people don't buy their stuff, the industry is gone. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, everyone here is in business, and I'm telling you, everyone here is probably likely wants to stay in business. We're not in business not to make a profit. We're in business to stay in business by providing needs and services that people want, not that people don't want, and we're pushing it on them. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you're right, Donald. My desire is to keep my clients happy and getting what they need and need it every month. That's the basis of my business.
We're coming up to the top of the hour. Does anybody else have any comments for Hans?
No, not really. I like listening from time to time as well instead of talking.
I like listening as well.
Hans, one thing is, like, when you started your talk and you talked about the male hunter type, you might want to look that up, because the prehistoric idea of male hunters only is most probably a revisionist theory, as more and more evidence gathers that the women were as much part of the hunt as the men. That's just,
thank you, Patrick.
Just for you.
No. I always need to be corrected.
No.
Depend on you guys to keep me along the straight and narrow. Yeah? I just know I like playing golf, and as John said, food and golf, they take up most of my time.
Yeah. No, it's not a correction as such. It's just an add-on that more and more there is evidence for that. And I think, Donald, when you asked the question about protection, I think that's a very good question. What you meant by that. The biggest outside aggressor to life on Earth right now is our own economic system. Right? So, and yes, we're not here to fight the economic system or anything like that. And yes, we can take small actions like you do, Hans, which is very good. But it is good to be aware of that and to maybe educate people around the fact that maybe somehow, with all our small actions we take, we can actually try and make change to the economic system that is causing all those issues, including COVID-19, which is a direct result of our economic production systems. Mm-hmm. And which, like, for instance, the World Health Organization has said COVID-19 is just child's play compared to the pandemics that are coming our way. If we do not change the way we live, produce food, eat food, sleep, whatever it is, but also our economic systems and everything we do, which is at the cause of that. So I think it's part as much part as taking action as it is education around the world to show people, like, look, there is a different way to do these things. So it's a dual action, if you want.
I love that, Patrick, because it comes back full circle to the word nourish. Mm-hmm. Consider nourishing your mind, your body, and your spirit, and gathering and keeping those people that you love along with you.
Yeah, because I know, for instance, from talking to people in when you talk about nutrition, when I was working with people in Limerick in the youth services, etc., they come from lower income or actually under the threshold incomes of families, and they find it extremely hard, obviously, to nourish their children from that low or non-existent income they have as well. And that's where the biggest malnutrition happens often in Ireland, is in these lower income families.
Yeah, we talk about food security, and that is a huge issue. But again, I would encourage people to look at Ron Finlay. If they have a median to plant, they have no excuse. I mean, really, I love reasons, but I don't like excuses. Yeah.
Yeah, and I find that fascinating, what Patrick said around lower income families in Ireland, because the work that I did for 25 years, it was working with unemployed and disadvantaged, as I would say, and all lower paid and all on welfare payments. And it's an observation, and I think I would agree with Hans, if you can grow something and you can plant something, because what I find is it's actually cheaper to go and buy the veg, the bag of potatoes, and do it yourself than it is to pick up a pizza or a jar or something. It's dearer. And so I would tend to kind of look when I do a dinner, and I'd say this dinner cost £5 and it fed 3 of us. So it's fascinating. It's a great discussion. I know I went on radio around a similar sort of subject around food. It wasn't around malnutrition, it was around nutrition, and it was around children's nutrition. And I made the point, I don't understand why we have children's menus and adult menus, because all of a sudden what you're doing is you are programming a mindset that children eat different to adults. I know my little girl sat up and she's had a bowl of spuds with me, and she had everything that we had, and she still has. And actually, it's quite funny, because if you don't offer her the same, she'll say, well, why would you not give that to me? So she eats exactly the same as us. And it's around, you know, you see it all the time. Parents bring them in and, do you want chicken nuggets? Do you want sausage chips? Do you want... And kiddie menus should be banned. And I said this, and I actually said it last year. I don't know which radio I was on, and what's the need for them? It's a program again. It's running a program, and it's giving different ideas that actually we don't need. A child just needs to have lovely food, as you say, Hans, and grow your tomatoes and your scallions, and lovely. And that's really lovely to be able to grow stuff like that.
I'm so glad you said that, Jackie, because that is a pet hate when I go into a restaurant and all you see is chicken nuggets and chips or whatever and chips. And it's like children are meant to be eating this food and adults are meant to be eating this food. And it's just totally the wrong message, especially when they're grown. It's, you know, it's like, it's no wonder children aren't eating their vegetables and they don't like their vegetables. They're programmed not to eat them, and it's okay to have their sausage and chips or whatever. I'm so glad you said that, Jackie. It's a pet hate of mine, it really is.
And I don't know whether it's super healthy or not, but I'm in the right company to be told it's wrong. But I always offered my daughter a cup of tea with me. I loved a nice Irish cup of tea in a Lion's tea bag, and I love a cup of tea, and I always gave her a cup of tea. So people are fascinated if they come to the house. Cara will have a cup of tea, and they'll go, does she drink tea? And I'll say, well, she asked me when she was very small, could she have a cup of tea? But I don't know whether that's wrong to have given her the cup of tea, but I give her a cup of tea.
Well, come here, my
but
daughter
no children drink tea that I know.
I know. My daughter loves having a cup of tea with me, because it's like we sit around our cup of tea and it's something warm about it or whatever. We have a little chat or whatever. We have our cup of tea together, you know. But she likes to be like mommy sometimes, you know, and she'll have her cup of tea with me, you know. So that's good. It's, you know, on that kind of a level, do you know what I mean? That connectedness or whatever you want to call it. But look, fascinating topic. I could talk about this all day. Hans had to go. He's another meeting there. But no, just to summarize everything that he said, the difference between malnutrition and overeating, and, you know, ignorance is bliss, you know, like we have all our foods there, but we're choosing the wrong types of food. And then you have all these foods been packed with sugar that has us caused us to be craving. And then we're not sleeping then, right, as all of blood sugar issues, heart disease, stroke, all this stuff that it leads on to. And then, you know, children obviously need their macronutrients, and you know, for their eyesight, all these people in the underdeveloped world, the problems with their eyesight and what have you as a result of not getting their vitamins or whatever. So it really is an educational process, but also taking an action as well, as Patrick said, you know, so being aware of it first of all, being able to see, and then what we can do to make a difference. So whether it's here in Ireland with our own children or whatever, or abroad as well. So it's just a fascinating topic. That's why I just wanted to bring Hans on to highlight that. To create an awareness on something that we can do as well. So I'm going to put all the links to everything that Hannah suggested in the posts. And Jackie, I wanted to ask you, Jackie, if you're here next week, would you like to take the hotspot next week and tell us all about your book and what's in your book and what have you? Because I really want to have you on and listen to you.
Yeah, I'll take. What dates next Wednesday?
Next Wednesday is
the
10th.
The 10th.
Yeah. At 5, I'll read a couple of things from the book.
Yeah, do give it. Yeah, give us a couple of highlights, a sneak preview. Yeah.
I got the author's copy.
Oh, fantastic! And your book is launched on the 18th.
Yeah, and Patrick was here. He witnessed it as they arrived. I
ran
ran to the gate like a psycho.
I was on the Zoom with Jackie when the book arrived. Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't make it up. So.
Wow. So, do you have a signed copy, Patrick?
No, not yet.
No, this is only the author's copy.
This is the author's copy.
I read this. I read this now.
It.
Yeah, I read this. Heather reads it, and then it goes up next week. It goes up. Finished.
Right, well, we'll have you on next week, and you can talk to us, okay? Because, oh my God, that flew in. Right.
Just keep the 18th.
Thank you.
Keep the 18th free. Keep the 18th free for Jackie's book launch.
Yes.
Yeah, at 7, and it won't be long. It'll be quick, won't it, Patrick?
Yes.
There'll be lots of excitement. You won't be bored, and So it'll be very quick and very powerful, but yeah, 7 o'clock on the 18th.
7 o'clock on the 18th. Okay, brilliant. And I'll give me that link. If there's a Zoom, give me the Zoom link for that or whatever.
Yeah, we haven't done that yet.
Yeah, when you have it, and
when it's all up, and yeah.
Listen, really quickly, right? Loads of people have been coming to me wanting to put up like promos or whatever. So what I'm going to do is, I don't want to flood the page with promos. So what I'm going to do is on a Friday, and I know I said this before, but I'm going to say this to you now. I'll put a thread together on a Friday, and just everybody posts any events or any promos that you're selling or whatever, and we'll keep it on the one thread, because I don't want the page to be just full of promos. Otherwise, people will get like whatever bored. You don't want to have too much of that. So what I'll do is I'll create a post on the Friday promo, and you can all put your links. Just tell everybody what you're up to or what's coming up or whatever, and post it in the thread. Is that okay? Well, yes, well, I'll put something in. Brilliant. Yes, fantastic. Molly, we didn't hear anything from you at all evening. I hope you're well.
Yeah, sorry, it's a bit hectic here. I was on one call to another, and I'd forgotten about it, and then I saw your message. It was about flipping 5:20, but I'm cooking for them at the moment, so it's all a bit mad here. But I loved what I did here.
Yeah, it's good. It's great, isn't it? Hans is just so passionate about what he does. He's so much information. He really does. He really does. So listen, I'm going to love yous and leave yous. I have to go and lift the dinner now and make sure my child is nourished.
Thanks, Joanne.
Thanks, Joanne.
So listen, we'll see you next week for Jackie's little talk. All right. Thanks a million.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.